Hello, everybody. This is Satellite 2025 Executive Chair Jeffrey Hill. Thank you all for being here with us today. And I'm here with our special guest and upcoming special guest host and MC of Satellite 2025, Sarah Cruddas. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here with us today. Sarah is
having me.
Great to have you here. Sarah's a prominent space journalist. She's been covering space for a long time. But Sarah, like looking at your story, you were studying journalism, but also astrophysics. And tell us how those two career paths came together for you, your love of space and journalism, because it didn't really, you didn't immediately start into space journalism, correct?
No, that's correct. So my background's in astrophysics. I'm that kind of cliche person. I cannot remember a time when space hasn't been my passion. One of my first memories is of looking up at the moon at the night sky. And I think that resonates with a lot of people in this industry because space inspires all of us, particularly young kids. And then often we grow out of it, but some of us are the lucky ones that get to stay and work in the space industry. So space is my lifelong passion. I studied astrophysics. I won the Young Scientist 2000 Awards when I was a teenager and went to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, which for a teenager from the UK to come to America and go to space camp, that really fueled that fire, that passion I had for space exploration. And studied astrophysics, was going to do a PhD, decided, went traveling, saw the world, saw less friendly parts of the world, saw things I didn't expect to see, and realized I wanted to tell stories about space exploration. So I then did a master's in journalism. I started working unpaid at the BBC, as one does in the media, answering phones, and then one thing led to another, and then I became a weather presenter and forecaster with the BBC, then a newsreader and science correspondent for them. And for me, space is not just about scientists and engineers. We need those. But the space industry now is about all kinds of skill sets. So I guess my role is as a communicator to explain, not just to the general public, but also to investors, people from all walks of life, why space matters, why what we're doing, not just in terms of sending people up. The astronauts are almost like the tip of the arrow, so to speak, but, what we're doing in space to benefit life on Earth. What are we doing with certain space missions or space-based data or investments in space? Why space can seem so remote, but actually what we're doing in space benefits all of us. It benefits everything from climate to medicine to business, all these industries, and how moving forward businesses and industries need to start thinking of having a space strategy. You can't just think of space as something out there. All of us need to be thinking more about space. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. It's a lifelong passion, but essentially to both tell stories and then also to work with companies to help understand more about where we're going in this new space era and where the opportunities lie.
And that's exactly why we're so honored to have you as a guest host, because that's what we're trying to do with Satellite, is to tell people why we're all doing this. I know this is our career, this is our work, but there's a greater impact, a global impact to what we do in space and with satellites, connectivity and environmental monitoring and climate science. So you were there for some big moments for the modern space industry.
Yeah.
You covered the retirement of the space shuttle for BBC, and that was also when I started first getting into the industry.
We're space twins then.
Exactly, very about the same time. What are some big moments since then for you that where you've seen an evolution of the space and satellite industry? What are some of your more memorable moments covering the space industry?
I mean, that's a great question. I'm going to have to start with the space shuttle. At the time, I had my first job. I was a weather forecaster and presenter with the BBC, and I took. I can tell this story now because it was 2011. It's more than 10 years ago now. But I took leave from the BBC vacation, and then I sold back the coverage because I recognised that there was an appetite there telling stories about space, but not enough people were doing it. Particularly, in America. I live in the US now, but America has almost like space in your DNA, in your blood. You grow up with space exploration in a way you don't do as much in Europe. So for me, the space shuttle was a huge moment because it marked the end of a way we were doing space exploration. And to tell that story was a huge personal moment for me because it kind of reignited my love for space and sent me back into the career path I'm on now. But post space shuttle, it was obviously a little depressing. I remember going back to the Cape in 2013 and a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of industry had gone. And then what we've kind of seen probably since about 2015 onwards is this renaissance in space, this boom suddenly. And for me, some of the most important things I've covered is everything from really obscure things, actually. So working in Australia to look at how algorithms used for satellites, used in for space telescopes, can actually be used for monitoring whale sharks and tracking them. So looking at how, and I hate scuba diving, and I had to scuba dive for this story, but looking at how we can track the movements and the migration patterns of whale sharks using science, technology, and data and algorithms we use in the space industry. So everything from like those kind of real world impacts through to being there to cover Blue Origin launches, to see space tourists go to space, to see, you know, quote unquote, you know, the non, you know, your everyday person as opposed to these elite astronauts go to space, to really, you know, covering huge missions such as the first Falcon Heavy launch, when the cherry red Tesla was launched into space by Elon Musk, and really just ushering in this new era of space exploration, which is no longer defined by government, but private industry. And really what we're doing in space is nothing new. The only thing different is the playing field. So throughout history, government has gone first, private industry has followed. And we're at this really exciting pivot point now in terms of space exploration, where private industry is there and it's changing the game, and things are happening faster than we realize. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, when we first talked, you had said that you were really excited to come to Satellite because you hadn't had the opportunity to see the show yet. And this is a little bit, it's a little different because it focuses, the name of it is Satellite, and it's predominantly focused on the commercial satellite industry. But we do talk about space applications, like that's our greater coverage. But what are you excited to learn from our community, learn at Satellite 2025?
I think for me, one of the most exciting things is the global nature of this conference, because if we're to succeed in space exploration is bigger than any one country, any one nation, any one person, any one entrepreneur. We need to work together to succeed in space. So the global nature, I think, you know, 110 plus countries have attendees at Satellites, and really the world coming together and making DC this epicenter for space exploration, space technology, and everything to do with space. Let's bucket it all together. That for me is really exciting. And then also the second thing is that for so long, space was just there. It was up there and it's what other people do. But what we're seeing now is that everyone needs a space strategy. Everyone needs to be thinking about how space can benefit their business, whether you're, you know, I remember working once on a story for the BBC about farming in space and the impact that will have. But every organization, every business you can think of, through from, you know, media, advertising, farming, robotics, everything needs to start thinking about how to have a space strategy. So the fact that this is about, you know, Satellite isn't just about the industry and for people in the industry themselves, but also for people outside of the industry to really start thinking about how they develop their space strategy, how space can benefit them, and how they can be ahead of the game in space. And I think it's prudent to look ahead and to be mindful that space is happening, and it's happening now. And businesses, if they want to succeed in this century, they need to be thinking more about how space benefits them.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for doing this. We're really, really excited to have you in March. For those of you who are coming to the show, I mean, you'll see Sarah talk at our opening general sessions and do maybe some moderating of keynotes that we haven't yet announced, but will soon. And also, you know, if you want to look at Sarah's work, I mean, if you just go to YouTube and type in Sarah Cruddas, you're going to see her demo reels working on BBC, but also if you look up her work on Discovery Channel, and she's got a lot of work there to check out. Sarah, do you want to just plug what you're doing now and where people can find you?
Yeah, you can find me. Google's probably the best thing. Just Google me. Obviously, I've got my own website. What am I doing now? I'm working on I'm actually launching my own business, which I'll be announcing in January. So I can't plug that just yet, but watch this space, so to speak. You can obviously find me on social media across all platforms. And what I'm working on now is a lot of exciting space projects and space industry related projects and strategic projects, and also some awesome filming that I've been doing about women in aerospace and women in the space industry, particularly international women. So a film I've been doing in the UK right now about the women from the UK and Ireland working in the US and in the space industry.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. We'll see you in March. And
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you. And for all of you watching, we look forward to seeing you in DC as well this March.